Since ancient times, stories have been circulating in the ancient world about a strange tribe of headless people who lived somewhere in North Africa. In the Middle Ages and modern times, headless people were one of the most beloved races of monsters by chroniclers. Europeans placed them wherever possible. As soon as any new lands were discovered, people immediately appeared who said that they had seen headless people there. So headless people appeared in India, America, and even Siberia. But this was in the Middle Ages, which were generally distinguished by a very wild imagination and exaggerated all the legends inherited from the Romans and Greeks. So the tales about the race of headless people come from antiquity, but there they are much more moderate and geographically accurate. And in general, such stories are very few in general, and apparently they had some real basis. However, let's start with myths and legends. The Blemmyes were first described this way 2,500 years ago in the histories, the 5th century BC writings of the Greek historian Herodotus, headless creatures with eyes in their chests, or so the Libyans say. According to Herodotus himself, these creatures inhabited the western part of Libya, which is very mountainous, densely forested, and teeming with fauna. In addition to these headless creatures, there were many other strange creatures in this part of the world, such as huge snakes, horned donkeys, and dog-headed creatures, and the historian makes it clear to his readers that these are not mere fables. Herodotus, however, does not give a specific name for the strange headless people of Libya. Where they had a brain, or whether they had one at all, Herodotus did not say in his notes. But he did indicate their place of residence, on the eastern edge of ancient Libya, and also gave them a name, Acephalai. And that's all. That is, no specifics, except geography. This fragment is about North Africa. And after Herodotus, there is no information about the headless for more than 600 years. They appear again only in the 1st century AD in the work Chorography by the Roman geographer Pomponius Mela, and already have a common name. The Blemmyes have no heads, and their facial features are on their chests. And again, we are talking about North Africa, and even more specifically, about Libya and Ethiopia. Further, all historians basically repeat the information of Pomponius Mela. The Blemmyes are found in Pliny the Elder in the geographical description of Africa in the 5th book, or rather, in his treatise, Natural History, where he talks about the Blemmyes tribe in North Africa. The Blemmyes did not have heads, their mouths and eyes were located in the same way as in Herodotus, that is, on the chest. Aulus Gellius recalls the Blemmyes in the 2nd century, and a little later Solinus mentions them. And they all place them somewhere in Africa on the border with Egypt. Well, after that, everyone forgets about them again for 300 years, and they resurface again in the Middle Ages. But medieval authors create completely literary fantasy, in no way connected with reality. Headless people are often found in Asian legends. An ancient Chinese legend tells of a destructive war that took place in ancient times. 2 emperors, Yan and Huan, shared power. The skies and seas burned, rocks fell into dust, day became night. Both rulers had terrible weapons. In the end, Huan won. However, the deity Xingtian did not like this. He stood up for the loser, but was also defeated. His decapitated body was thrown into the ocean. However, the story does not end there. The god refused to die. Having drawn eyes on his shoulders and a mouth on his stomach, he continued the fight and punished the villain. The war ended, peace reigned on earth for a long time, and Xingtian became the progenitor of the race of headless people. During the Middle Ages, the locations of headless people were often indicated on geographical maps, and their varieties appeared on these maps. One type of Blemmyes has a face on the chest, while others have eyes and a mouth on the shoulders. But they all have one thing in common, the absence of a head. The location of headless people on maps has constantly changed over time. For example, the Hereford World Map, dated around 1300, places the Blemmyes tribe in Ethiopia. By the late Middle Ages, the location of headless people shifts further east, to Asia and India. Quite often, headless people can be found in medieval literature. In the novel about Alexander, in the prose telling of the adventures of Alexander the Great, you can also find headless people. During the Age of Discovery, headless people are also mentioned in various sources. For example, in Walter Raleigh's book, The Discovery of Guyana, they are mentioned as Wapanoma, and live on the banks of the Kora River. But these are, in fact, only retellings of the legends of the local Aborigines. Still, the ancient authors clearly had in mind some specific people. But which one? And here is where the most interesting part begins. The fact is that in ancient times there was an absolutely real people in the world called Blemmyes, and they lived approximately where ancient historians place headless people, in North Africa, on the border of Egypt and Ethiopia, in the region called Nubia. They have been known since about the 1st century BC. Moreover, they created big problems even for the Roman Empire. Because of the Blemmyes, the Romans abandoned their fortifications in Egypt. The kingdom of Meroe fell under the blows of the Blemmyes. In addition, the Blemmyes are credited with the spread of Christianity in Nubia. However, their activity did not last long, and already in the 4th century AD the Blemmyes completely disappeared from the historical arena. However, they managed to become the prototype of the race of headless human monsters. However, why did rumors suddenly start that the Blemmyes had a head on their chest? Everything turned out to be quite simple here. The warriors of the Blemmyes had human faces depicted on their shields. They became famous mainly for their night raids and attacks on enemies. So imagine, it's night, a crowd of warriors is running towards you, with human faces depicted on their shields, and in the dark it seems that their head is located on their chest. So rumors began to spread around the world about the headlessness of the Blemmyes and that their face is on their chest. That's the whole secret. Well, what or who Herodotus had in mind, we will probably never know. And what do you think about this, dear viewers? Write about it in the comments.